Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Welcome back to video number 4 on Excel VBA Chinese Play. In our today's video, we don't need to write a lot of code here, but we need to understand the coding better. And it is again going to be another Spark Shorts video here. When we go for the fourth module or the video here, we are going to talk about working with a sheet here. How do you select a sheet in a VBA code? How do you read a sheet in a VBA code? And how do you write something in a VBA code? So this is going to be a very easy logic to understand, and it's not going to be a counting task to learn. When I go for reading or writing a data set, probably I'll be using the following two functions in a VBA code called range and cells. We already saw this in our previous two videos. If you are new to this video, I will add all the videos that I've added so far. I've added 5 videos so far totally. This is the 6th video that we are generating here. Again, the number is 4, but we saw the practical applications in the other 2 videos here. When I go for a range, again, I can set the range here for a singular cell or a selection of a row on a column, or a range also can be possible. The same can be done using a cell based selections also. Preferably the best usage as far as I concern, or the best practice that we can use in a VBA coding will be a cell based one that will be more precise while we code in a data set. When I normally go into a selecting of a data, so the recommendation will always be in this particular pattern where we will define a range and then we can use that as a list here. So you always define a dimension first. When I go back to this particular data set, and you can see that what is recommended and what is not. When I go for a normal data set, you can select the data set in this particular way, where we will select one particular row or a row of a particular column and so on and so forth can be done. When I do with a sheet references, I preferably use the second coding that I'm specifying below, not the first one, because the first one will miss the sheet, or it will consider wherever our active sheet selections is in place. So when you're writing a code, please do remember that if you don't specify the sheet name here, this sheet will automatically understand whatever the active sheet that you're using at the moment. It will consider that as a place where it has to do all the respective code that you're going to write, whether you're going to select, copy, paste, cut, do whatever you want to do, you can do it. Instead of doing that, specify the sheet. Again, when you're specifying the sheet, you can specify the number of the sheet there. So by that way, it will understand it is the first sheet, second sheet, and third sheet, and so on. This can be improvised by one more dimension that is called naming the sheet here. So if you are naming the sheet, please do remember that you can pull the data set by the name ranges here. The same logic can be used better. Then now you can see that the default name that comes on my left hand side of the sheet, the sheet property inside our Alt F11 VBA application window, or the code window. When we are writing a code here on the left hand side, you will see 2 different sheets, and there are 2 different boxes here. One is called a property window, another one is a process window here. So now the property window talks about the name of the sheet. So if the left hand side I didn't rename it, I kept the default name. On the right hand side I renamed it. And when I go back to the data set next, then I can read the data. If you want to read the data, or if you want to pull the data from an Excel sheet, again we will normally give the best practice in place, and we will try to keep the dimension in stake here. And then if I talk about a dimension called string here, then that's going to hold all the text for us, and then you can pull the data by the specific range. Here you can use a cell reference also. You can say cells 1, 1 dot value. The same way we can also write a code here if I wanted to. By that way, I'm going to just reverse the entire data set here. I'm just reversing the data. Other than that, I didn't do it because I'm telling the system where the data of this list should pop into a data set here. That's what we did in our list here. We will see a small video added to the coding part here. So I'll show you how I'm going to use these dimensions a little better. Let's get into the data set and see how the coding is going to come into play, how I can rename the sheets and other dimensions here. I'm not going to run all the codes here because these codes are very simple code to understand. I'm interested to showcase this part of the dataset because this is where we are going to add some additional points. Sometimes the viewer sheet, or when I populate an Alt F11, the module that I'm adding into a dataset might not be fully visible, or I won't see the all property windows that I'm looking forward for. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I'll go back to my sheets here, and then once I go to the sheets, I'll take a blank sheets, and then I'm going to give an Alt F11, and you can see on the left hand side I see the project and property window both coming up here. In some situation we will not see both of them here. Probably I'll see a screen like this. This is where I'll go back to the view tab and then activate these two dimensions for our list here. So I'll come back to the view tab. When I click Control R, that will give you the project explorer, which will talk about which workbook that I'm using it, whether I have a default personal macro workbook, or I'm adding a module, or I'm adding a sheets here. We'll see all of them. And when I go back to the view again, when I add the property window, that's going to give you the property window for me. By default, whatever the sheet that I have in here, sheet 1, that's the property number. Now I rename this as data sheet, give an enter, and then now I go back to my Alt F11, and then you can see that the data sheet name is changed here. Whenever we come back to the data set again, I think that I missed one more dimension that I want to talk about in this list is when I work with a code here, the coding will have a different dimension because now I renamed the sheet up front here. But when I go back to my base sheet, or when I go back to the coding that I showed you a little while earlier, it doesn't change. It still shows sheet 1 for me. But when I go back to my Excel sheet, it shows me the data sheet here because I renamed the sheet's front name or the display name. I never changed the core name here. If you want to change the core name also, you can do it. You can see that very clearly on our project window. The sheet name still given by Excel is sheet 1, but the name that I renamed it from the sheet 1 in the display part as data sheet here. This is how we can differentiate the sheets here. Sheet renaming can be done. You can even change the whole source name here. We don't have captions and names separately here. We'll have all of them in one single lot. You can see that the name of the captions are coming at the bottom, and the original name is sheet 1 for us. This is how we will insert the sheet names into play. This is Vinod signing out from myself Academy and YouTube channel. Please do like, subscribe, and share our videos to others, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon if you are new to this video. If it is shared or you are seeing the first video, you can see the lot more videos that is already added for us. We have 5 more videos already in place for us to learn. This is the 6th video that I've added in our list here. This is Vinod signing out from myself Academy and Excel Snippet YouTube channel. Happy coding.